It doesn't matter what posters you see on the freeway or on Instagram or, on billboards saying, hey, you're going to be join us. You're part of this big family, thin blue line. Yeah. Let's go get the bad guys.
That's right.
No, that is not the case. You are your own advocate. When stuff hits the fan, you better be ready to defend yourself. You got to educate yourself.
In this episode, the focus will be on the experiences and insights of Prime, a former member of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Prime served 4 years in the department working tirelessly inside the jails. However, his journey took an unexpected turn when he witnessed unprofessional and unbecoming conduct within the department. Let's dive into his story and learn about the challenges that he faced. Welcome to Internal Affairs, a police podcast. Let's go. Prime, hey, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, look, let's get right to it, man. Let's go with the core questions first. And I know you probably haven't been asked this before, but we have to ask. It's mandated in this show. Question number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, rate the importance of internal affairs in a police department and why.
I was going to say 11. That's how important it is to me.
Okay.
But we'll go with that 10. The reason why I want to say 11, now I do have to say that all departments and all particular units of assignment within any agency are important. However, when it comes to internal affairs, that by far is, if not the most important, one of the most important out there. And there's this old saying that goes, who watches the watchman? Right.
I like that. Who watches the watchman?
Yeah, who watches the watchman? In particular agencies, people who work the line, they're considered watchmen. We're both considered watchmen, right? Watchmen make mistakes. Sometimes watchmen fall. Sometimes they rise. Sometimes they need defense. Sometimes they need help from other watchmen. And who's the one who's going to take care of it?
Yeah, very, very good point. Look, I know we're going to go down a trip down memory lane, I should say, your rap sheet, if you will. And I know that you were in the academy, and we're going to get into when you were in the academy. I know it was in 2019, I believe.
That's correct.
And I'm curious, because I know when I was in the academy, no one even told me about internal affairs. I got to ask you as a follow-up question in terms of the importance. You're at the academy. How important was internal affairs? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but how much did you know about internal affairs while you're going through the academy?
We didn't know anything, really. No one spoke about it. We heard rumors and little rumblings of internal affairs coming through just to see something, whatnot, in the academy facility. No one knew, unless maybe you educated yourself one way, but no, it wasn't a part of the academy at all.
Really? No block of instruction that someone comes in and says, hey, we're here to talk about internal affairs, there's Peace Officers Bill of Rights, what you should do, do's and don'ts, pros and cons, nothing like that?
There was one instance within the academy when they specifically stated you don't want to be caught under internal affairs' umbrella. That was a legitimate statement in the academy. So all of us were like, what's going on? What is that? I was one of those people. I had no idea.
Right. But no one even bothered to say, well, where are they, or what do we know about internal affairs?
Nope.
Would it be safe to say that you even know what misconduct was?
No, not really. I mean, aside from common sense. Right. No, we had no idea. It wasn't something that we were taught or learned in the academy whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of it all, there's policies, if you violate them, that could be an IA complaint.
Right.
If you're, in your assignment in jails and you're dealing with, these, who are prisoned in jail. Yeah. And you have to use force.
Yes.
And for whatever reason,
right,
probably didn't turn out the way you did. I'm sure IA is probably, you're like, oh shit, IA is going to come or something like that, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that was one of the the rumblings that will go across in the academy. Especially when they ask you, where do you want to work, where do you want to be? A lot of the drill instructors will be like, oh, well, get ready to get into force. So then we're like, okay, yeah. I mean, a lot of us were no problem. Force is not an issue. However, there's particular ways to handle certain situations, and if you deviate away from that road, internal affairs will be right there. To face you. Yeah,
totally. No, that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Look, the second question is, and I'm going to couch it this way, where if you're a sergeant, let's just hypothetically say you promoted to sergeant and you get assigned to internal affairs, what do you think your job should be?
Knowing what I know now,
yes, knowing what you know now.
I would definitely be, of course, a fact checker. I would make or do interviews. I will get all my ducks lined up in a row. Make sure that I look as hard as I need to when it comes to a particular scenario or situation. Because there could be malinformation, there could be misinformation, there could be miscommunication within any particular case that would fall on my lap or wherever, right? So I would imagine that my particular responsibilities would be like, okay, to be like, let's put everything together, let's trim the fat, and let's get the facts down straight here for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's very well.
Did I get it right? Is it close?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No stone goes unturned. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I suppose, and maybe we can kind of elaborate a little bit more when you're saying the trim the fat would be, here you are getting all this information, and if you have a certain allegation, you want to make sure you concentrate specifically for that allegation.
Yes. So anyone working law enforcement would agree. In a law enforcement setting or any agency, the level of particular gossiping and rumors just run rampant. Right. You get into a particular situation, within the matter of seconds, someone across the county will already know, right? So there's a lot of rumors, a lot of misinformation out there. So, and you don't want that to taint the actual case that you have. You have a solid, bits of information. Why are you going to taint it with misinformation and gossip or rumors that are obviously not true?
No, that you spot on, man. Gossip and rumors would only get you to believe that, oh my God, Prime or Marlon did something wrong, and everybody thinks you did something wrong, and then it gets investigated, and you're like, I was exonerated. I did everything by policy, or and then everybody else is like, oh my God, I thought you really did something wrong. That's the misfortune of the. Would you consider that like the culture?
That's correct. The big part of that culture.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. We're definitely going to talk about culture. Okay, so let's, rap sheet, right? Trip down memory lane. So what I do know is you served for 4 years.
That's correct.
Okay, and let's see, you were at Twin Towers Men's Central Jail?
Yes, I was. My first unit of assignment was at Twin Towers Correctional Facility.
Okay. And
Men's Central Jail is literally right next door.
Okay.
I mean, it's our neighbor.
Okay.
So whenever a particular situation would happen, I will go help out with Men's Central Jail as well. So we would bounce around from Twin Towers to Men's Central Jail and then back and forth to like the other particular facilities within that area. But Twin Towers was my home.
Okay. And I know at some point you transferred to Central Regional Detention Facility, also known as CRDF.
That's correct.
Before we actually get to your assignments, I do know that you were in the academy in 2019. We've had these conversations about the fact that you were at the epicenter.
That's right.
Of what we call COVID.
Yes.
As we know it today, again, it was a pandemic.
Right.
It would be fair to say, but kind of walk us through and share with us how was the academy, and I know you were right in the middle of COVID, and tell us all about that.
So during my time in the academy, we heard rumors and scuttlebutt about a particular illness or virus that was floating around California.
Okay.
Everyone had their particular speculation as to where it came from and how it came about. What hit us in the academy was the illnesses, the flus, the coughing, the lack of concentration. We had no idea as to what what it was, how it came about. We just knew that it was something bad, and people were definitely getting sick left and right. However, just like anyone would know, when you go to the academy, it's not like a regular 9 to 5 job where you could just be like, I don't want to come in today. No, like you're showing up no matter what to the academy. So a lot of us were already sick from COVID. We just had no idea it was that. So we're at the academy, we're coughing and we're sweating, we're just, it's hard to concentrate. It made everything that much worse. You know, you got the lack of concentration. So then here comes a DI yelling in your face, and it's, you know, it's hard to understand what's going on. COVID definitely took a toll on all of us that time.
And I have a follow-up question about that. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, how many classmates did you have?
We started with 99 or 100.
Okay. And you probably graduated with what, 80 or something like that?
80.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, out of the 80 that were in your class, did you guys experience the COVID type symptoms?
Only a few of us did.
Okay.
Yeah, only a few of us did. But however, it really, just like anyone would tell you, when you're in the academy, you have to rely on your partner or your platoon,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if one person within that particular unit or platoon was feeling it, all of you guys feel it, right? You get punished or whatever the case is. You know, if you can't complete a particular task as one unit, the whole unit suffers, especially in the academy.
Yeah. Did anybody get like real sick? Or are we just talking about, you know, runny nose and
So because it was
cold-like symptoms, flu-like
Right.
symptoms, or
Well, that was there. However, because it was so unprecedented, we had no idea as to what it actually was.
Mhm.
So we just chalked it up to having the flu or a cold. But because of particular culture within the academy, or just really in any agency, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
You better show up no matter what, right?
Yeah.
You better drink some coffee, whatever you need to do. Show up to the academy. Doesn't matter how you're feeling. You're going to the academy.
You gotta graduate.
You got to graduate.
You
That's
gotta
right.
graduate. You gotta make it happen.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty interesting time. So I know that started in June, and then you ended up graduating in November. So
That's
here we
right.
are in November. Is it to my understanding, and you can educate me on this because you're my first deputy sheriff
All
guest. Does everyone in other words, do all 80, do they say, hey, you guys are all going to go to the jail facilities, as opposed to some going to court or some going to a station to do patrol? How does that work?
So during the academy, when the facilitators already know, okay, this recruit and that recruit and these recruits, these guys here are going to graduate.
Okay.
They already know, right? We more than likely don't know because they want to scare us like that.
Of
right?
course.
But they know. So they'll come up to you as a platoon or as a unit, and they'll be like, hey, where do you want to start your career off? You got choices. You could start, obviously, you're going to start at a facility, a jail or prison facility, right? And then when that time comes, you go over to a patrol if you decide to go to patrol. So they ask you and they give you 3 different options. Or it was 3 or 5, I don't really remember, but it was 3 or 5 different options as to where do you want to go. Right away, I said I wanted to go to Twin Towers Correctional Facility. I mean, that was from just the stories that I hear, just from the news articles. Twin Towers was number 1 on my list, no matter what. I had to make my way over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular reason why? Is it something that you just...
So Twin Towers Correctional Facility, those who know, those who are savvy about it, houses all of the particular inmates that have mental, cognitive dysfunctions.
Okay.
Right? So that was extremely alluring to me. The whole psychology, mental health in general was extremely alluring to me. So how could I not want to go down there and work with these particular individuals, see how the deputies handle mental health issues, see how the psychologists handle it or the nurses, see how even the particular people that are housed in those facilities, see how they interact with each other.
Yeah.
You know, it was a dream come true, to be honest with you, to work at Twin Towers Correctional Facility.
You know, I feel your passion. I know you're passionate about this stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, it ended in a sad note. I do know that you, at some point, you resigned.
I did.
and we'll get into that. So you ended up going to MCJ, right? It's Mental Central Jail.
Yes, well,
Twin Towers.
Twin Towers, and
And you worked at
Yes.
Men's Central Jail, MCJ.
MCJ.
Got it. You know,
Yeah. World famous.
The world famous MCJ.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is that I've been to Twin Towers a couple of times in my career. Well, we had to book
Oh yeah,
arrestees that were like,
of course.
yeah, it's something real
Out
horrible.
there.
And we had, we had it forever up in the 12th floor or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Something along those lines. So here we are at Twin Towers and Men's Central Jail. And this is where we're going to get into internal affairs, because that's what this show is all about.
Yes.
I want you to explain and kind of elaborate on your experience with internal affairs, because I do know in the conversations that we've had, it all happened right when you started getting into, I suppose, the culture. Would that be fair to say? Because I know
that's fair to say.
We're going to talk about culture, but what we both know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, with culture, and I say this a lot, it kind of dictates what you do. And
Yes,
sometimes it dictates what you don't do.
Yes, it
in
does.
terms of practices, procedures, and how to go about business. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's go. Talk to me about what happened in Twin Towers.
So with the culture there, obviously, if you're not aware of how police culture can be, it's very, very masculine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about how our day is going. We just handle business. So get that mentality and then times it by 10. And that's the culture that you'll have at particular facilities like Twin Towers Correctional Facility, or just really anywhere in the county area, Los Angeles County area. When I was working at Twin Towers Correctional Facility, I loved it. It was great. However, one day, and this is a couple years down the line, one day we heard rumors, here we go with the rumors and the gossip, right, that we're going to be getting several new, quote unquote, sergeants coming into the facility. The sergeants, we had around, I want to say 8 to 10 different sergeants in one particular unit that will assist the entire Twin Towers Correctional Facility, right?
Okay.
So we were all used to working with their thought process, their mentality, their culture, their idea of an interpretation of what culture is. We were so used to working with these sergeants. It was fantastic. All of a sudden, here come, these dreaded new sergeants. So everyone's kind of like wondering, hey, what's going on? What's up with this? Why are we getting all of a sudden new sergeants, and our old sergeants are feeling super sad that they have to go?
Right.
So we received these particular sergeants that came in. These sergeants did not want to come over to Twin Towers facility. They were actually transferred out of a previous facility for misconduct going into Twin Towers. So imagine if you just have a giant mess on the table. You have it right here. Mm-hmm. You're like, man, this is a nasty mess. Mm-hmm. Common sense would say, let me clean this here, put this in the trash, clean this table off, and now everything is fantastic. However, that particular mentality of the disciplinary action that happened with these sergeants, they were like, oh, we have a mess. Let's just get this mess and move it just a couple inches over here because it looks better here as opposed to here. So that it was the mentality that we had to deal with at that time.
And if I may interject,
yeah,
it's something like, you know what? The problem's solved. Let's just send them to this particular facility, and somehow, some way, things will get better.
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's what we had to deal with.
Okay.
So we heard these rumors like, oh man, these sergeants are coming over from this other facility. Why are they coming here? What are we gonna do? And I'll be honest with you, when I heard these rumors, I was like, come on, they're sergeants. They're cool. They're here for us.
Right.
They're our supervisors. They're here to help us out. And man, was I wrong. It was a big slap in the face. And when these sergeants came over, they started to haze, bully other deputies and other sergeants at that. They started to do all of these particular things that were not within policy. A perfect example would be they would grab whoever they felt they want to pick on at that particular time, and they will grab them. They'll take them into the office and conduct unauthorized pat searches on them, on deputies. So imagine as a police officer or a deputy, you go up, you jam somebody up, meaning you make contact with someone that you want to talk to, and you have a strong suspicion, more than likely he has something on his or her person that could potentially harm you, right? So an officer or a deputy, you conduct a search, a pat down search for weapons or whatever it could be, right? That is exactly how these deputies were being treated in the facility. So then the next question comes up is, why doesn't anybody say anything? Well, how could you say something? To who? Those are your supervisors. Mind you, at this particular time, no one really is aware of what internal affairs is. And if you did know what internal affairs is, going up to them and letting them know about a particular situation like this is actually, in their culture, a slap in their face, because you're turning your back on your own unit of assignment.
Wow.
And now you're going over to internal affairs. You're pretty much ratting them out or snitching on them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that puts you in a particular position where no one wanted to say anything. And it got to the point where these particular sergeants will grab other deputies, right? Waist chain them like they're inmates, put them inside cells that are covered in feces, and just lock them in there and just wait for them to see if they could get out, laugh. And we're there watching this. We can't do anything. What are we going to say? Who are we going to go to? Another sergeant?
Right.
We couldn't.
Did anybody at any point try to take it to the next level and maybe talk to a lieutenant or something like that? Or
Yes, and that was me.
okay,
That was me.
okay,
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. What happened then?
So in talking to one of the sergeants, I was put in a quite a pickle, right? I had a conundrum to deal with,
Of course.
because now the sergeants that I got so used to working, these awesome sergeants that had our back, that will always help us out with whatever, whether it be a question within policy or the county or even life, they were always there. They were true leaders to the bone. They will help us out. They have experience. They're people persons, right? They weren't around. They were no longer around. The only sergeants that were left were these particular sergeants doing this. So I was tasked with, well, I'm one, not to stay quiet. If something's going on, I have to say something. I think the majority of us in law enforcement join law enforcement because of that. We want to do something. We actively want to help out, right? However, I was tasked with, well, who am I going to talk to? I had no idea.
Yeah.
I went over to another coworker, another deputy, a partner, and asked, who can I talk to about this? I obviously can't talk to them. What am I going to say? Like, you guys are doing this. You guys are not supposed to. No. I had to go talk to a sergeant that somebody else trusted. I went over to the sergeant and let him know what was going on. And he said, you know what? This is serious stuff. You need to talk to internal affairs about that. Right when he said that, my heart just sunk to the bottom, because now it's getting real, right?
Yeah.
And I have, at that particular point in time, I had zero education and knowledge as to what exactly internal affairs was. I'll be honest with you, just like everybody else, whenever you have a question about something, we always, as human beings, we revert back to what we know. We explain things that we don't know with the things that we do know. That is a human trait.
Yeah.
So my particular human trait at that time was to find out what internal affairs was, because I had no idea. The only thing I knew was from movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Whenever internal affairs showed up, oh man, someone's getting canned,
Yeah.
or that's it for them. You're done. You could say goodbye to your career, right?
No, absolutely.
But I did. I went ahead and I called internal affairs twice. The first time I called, the person on the other side of that phone was extremely upset that I talked to them to begin with. And then I apologized. Imagine that. I'm calling for help, and then I actually find myself apologizing for wasting their time, for talking to them and being like, hey, this is what's going on. They told me, we can't help you with this. You got to go talk to someone else. Talk to someone in your own unit. And they hung up the phone. So then I had no idea what to do. You know, I was stuck in a situation where, like, I felt I talked to the cream of the crop. The people that I know can help out in this particular situation. I talked to them and I got shut down. So I ended up doing a written report and hand delivering it to a particular sergeant who was in charge of misconduct.
Okay.
And I mean, I had to seek him out, right? Once I did that, guess who found out about those particular reports? It was those two sergeants I was talking to. Almost immediately, they found out. And the level of hazing and bullying just skyrocketed from there, to the point where now I find myself being transferred out of my beloved unit of assignment to another area, which was CRDF at that time.
Yeah. So, and I want to talk about that. So I take it this lasted a couple of months, maybe a year or two over at Twin Towers when you were going through all this.
That the whole debacle in general lasted around a year and a half.
Okay.
Actually.
And I'll get to that year and a half in terms of you must have just found out. Well, let's talk about when you got transferred after a year and a half.
Right.
Did you get a phone call, you get an email, or someone just told you, hey, today you're going over to CRDF?
Yes, they said, hey, just so you know, come Monday morning, and I'm finding this out on Friday. Come Monday morning, your new assignment is across town at CRDF.
Kind of like voluntold?
Yeah, voluntold. In the county, they have a terminology called overnighted.
Okay.
That's another one. Yeah, voluntold to go to CRDF.
Is that common practice? I'm just curious.
Within the county, there's this motto or saying: if you act up, or if they don't like you, they, meaning your unit of assignment, you're gonna get what they call freeway therapy. Freeway therapy is if they see you work at a particular facility, they try to move you just across the whole county, so you have an even longer drive, and you spend the majority of your time on the freeway. Just kind of like a subtle, like, yeah, we know what you did, so we're going to take care of you right away.
Okay, and then what about normal operating procedures, if you will? Meaning, here I am at Twin Towers, Marlon, me, and I want to go to, I don't know, Lennox, whatever, and I submit
A transfer
paperwork
form, yeah.
or a transfer form or something
Sure.
like that, and eventually it happens.
Eventually, and we're talking about anywhere from 4-6 months to a year, maybe
Okay.
a little bit longer than that.
Right, and and there's also been common practice where you transfer from one jail facility to a prison facility or something along those lines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That happens all the time, especially if you want to get a new set of abilities or tools under your belt. Like you want more experience working with maybe another type of particular inmates that you want to deal with. Then yeah, you obviously ask for a transfer. You go there, and you know you learn more. You become more diverse
Right.
in the county.
Yeah, but that's someone who wants to. But
That's
in your
someone who
case,
wants to.
that's not what happened.
That's correct. That's correct.
Here's a more important question. A year and a half, you're going home, man. I do know it's probably heavy boulders on your shoulder in terms of stress. Kind of talk to us a little bit about, the emotional roller coaster about all this. I mean, what was going on, man?
When I joined the academy,
Mm-hmm.
it took me a long time to get in. It took me a long time to seek out a career in law enforcement. I come from a health and fitness industry.
Okay.
I used to be a coach. I used to teach self-defense, kickboxing, all of that. So going into this particular line of work, yeah, it was a definite culture shock.
Okay.
It was a definite culture shock. Once I got into the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, man, it was a dream come true. It was almost unreal that I graduated and that I made it in. And man, I had a whole career path planned out. I was on cloud nine. I was so happy. It was an amazing time. I worked so hard and it paid off. I finally made it. Now I could really help out people. Now I could really give back to the community, right? When all of this happened, not gonna lie, it was a giant stab in the heart. I felt like I was betrayed.
Yeah.
And I also felt that, if it's happening to me, out of the 9,000 deputies that were employed in Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, I cannot be the only one. And sure enough, I wasn't the only one.
Okay. And in terms of stress?
So when it comes to the stress aspect, once I was moved, or when I was dealing with this particular situation, there's only so many things these particular sergeants can do, and there's only so many things that administration can do.
Mhm.
Before I knew it, I was being what they call drafted. Drafting, for the people who, your audience, so they can understand.
Yes.
Drafting is a terminology that they use when you're about to go home after an 8-9 hour shift. Right when you're about to go home, the watch commander or a scheduling sergeant will be like, "Hey, guess what? Oh yeah, you're not going home. You're gonna work another shift." So now you go from working an 8-9 hour shift to 16, 18 hours a day. The days off were non-existent. The level of stress was uncanny. I mean, you got the lack of sleep, which we all know how dangerous that can be.
Yes.
There was numerous times when I would drive home. I would take the 5 going back home. There was numerous times where I would veer off the road because I fell asleep behind the wheel.
I've been there and done that.
Yeah, right?
I've been there and done that. I beg to ask, drafting, was that a common practice?
It's not. Now it's super common, yes. But back then it wasn't really that much of an issue.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to get into the tragic incidents that happened not too long ago that you're an advocate about.
Yeah.
You've been talking about it, and we'll get into that later on. But I say that because, man, you're spot on when you talk about now compared to how long have you been out?
It's been a year and 3 months
Yeah,
now.
so it's been a year and 3 months. Believe it or not, in a year and 3 months, a lot has changed.
Yeah.
I can tell you, my colleagues and people that I talk to, there are small agencies that I know of where they're mandating overtime now.
Yes.
There's an agency out there that at one point you can work double time patrol. And I heard they bumped it up to triple.
Oh.
So in other words, you come work a shift, they'll pay you triple the amount of your hourly rate, which is just,
that's pretty ridiculous.
It's very good point. It's ridiculous in the sense that, hey, we got to pay you a pretty good amount of money for you to come to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And but then again, you also have the other aspect of it is mandatory.
Yes.
There's some agencies that are mandatory, and to my understanding, and I don't want to get off topic a little bit, but the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is at a point where, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like mandated overtime.
It is mandated overtime, meaning you don't have a choice. Yeah. And that's what I want your viewers to have this understanding is, yes, there is a lot of people. There's a lot of hardworking people out there. You got the truckers, you got all these other particular non-law enforcement types of people that work a lot. And I'm talking about, 16, 18 hours. Yes, that is true. However, when you work that amount of time in a law enforcement setting, it's deadly because anyone can ask. Anybody who's been wearing a badge or who's been in service, you have to be hyper vigilant all the time. Sometimes you're always hyper vigilant. You're even hyper vigilant at home.
Yes.
That's how much you have to be hyper vigilant because you never know, right? You just never know what could happen in that day. And imagine being hyper vigilant is draining. Your hormones are rushing. You got the adrenaline. You got the adrenaline dumps. You got the cortisol going through your system. It's extremely difficult to work 16, 18 hours a day in a law enforcement setting because you have all these exterior issues bearing down at you. You have people who want to kill you in the street, people that want to kill you within the facility. Then you have, like in my particular situation, you have your own supervisors who are trying to find something on you to get you out because they know that if you say something, it's going to be them who's going to be leaving. So now you have all these exterior dangers coming at you all at once. It could be extremely daunting, extremely deadly. And I'll be honest, and I'll put myself out there, it got to me on numerous occasions to the point where I take medication, still do to this day because of it.
Yeah. I beg to ask, you sleep better today than you did back then? Or
Absolutely. I sleep way better now, yeah. I wasn't getting any sleep at that.
Oh, that's just...
right.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that with us, Prime. Look, I know at some point we did leave off that you transferred to CRDF, Central Regional Detention Facility.
Yeah.
All women's?
All women's facility.
Okay, so here we are. You took your orders like you're supposed to, and you
Yeah.
end up at CRDF. Talk to me. What happened there, and what's going on?
So anyone in law enforcement setting obviously would have this ability to do this. Is you could get any particular situation that you're in and try to find a positive thing about it, because you have to. It's your sanity, right? Even when everything's going down, because you're already prepared when you turned on that radio. You put your mags in your pouch. You already know that today is going to be one of those days, right?
Yeah.
However, and you're ready for it, right? But when it does happen, we always try to look for the positive aspect within that
Right.
to make it through the day.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to CRDF, I saw nothing but positiveness. I was like, you know what? The positive thing is that I'm no longer around those particular sergeants. This is a whole new facility. I can't wait. Yeah, it's a whole different setting to me, but now I'm gonna have a more diverse tool set to deal with, because now I'm dealing with a whole different side of corrections, right?
Okay.
When I got there, extremely happy. I was so happy. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to learn. I was volunteering for all this stuff. But the day that I arrived, a sergeant walked up to me, looked me straight in the eye, looked at my name badge and goes, "Oh, Prime? Oh, yeah, I heard about you. I got word from your other sergeants. We know all about you." And when he told me that, I was like, there's no escape.
Right.
There is no escape.
And any highlighted incidents that happened there that caused you to get involved with internal affairs, or?
So when that happened, I called internal affairs a second time. I go,
Okay.
you know what? I probably got somebody, for the most part, he's already upset. I don't know. Maybe they didn't give him barbecue sauce with his chicken nuggets or something, so now he's going to have a whole bad day,
Yeah.
right? So let me call again. How big can internal affairs unit be? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's pretty big to cover 9,000 deputies.
Yeah,
It has to be
absolutely.
pretty big.
Yeah.
So I took a chance. I called again. I go, you know what? I'm going to give this another shot, because I can't take this, right? I called immediately upon and picking up the phone. That person asked me the same thing. How did you get this number? And I go, sir, I got this number from a sergeant who said that you guys can help me out in this situation. And he goes, well, what's your situation? And I told him, I got these particular sergeants who are doing this. They're manipulating the schedule. They're double dipping in their own schedule. They're doing time clock fraud. And I know all about this. And, I gotta let you know, because it's hurting a lot of people, including myself. He literally said, you know what, Prime? You have no equity. And he hung up the phone.
Oh, what do you think he meant by that?
Well, I have no idea. I'm like, I'm not buying a home. What is he talking about equity? I have no idea.
Wow.
So then I was at a loss. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do at that point.
Okay, and how long did you stay at CRDF, and kind of walk me through after that? What happened?
So at that particular time, things were obviously still consistent. I was still dealing with the mandatory overtime. The medication that I was taking disabled me from working a graveyard shift, because you have to take this medication at this particular time, which is at nighttime. So it knocks you out completely, and obviously, you can't manipulate anything, especially not a weapon, right? You can't manipulate a car or anything. You're literally done with this medication.
Okay.
I presented this information to my command staff. I go, look, this is what's going on. I'm taking this medication because of this and this. Now I can't work graveyard, so what can I do in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they didn't like that one bit. They said, you know what, Prime? You can't work graveyard shifts. You cannot be a deputy. And that hit me hard. It hit me so hard. I remember, and this rarely happens to me, but when you get such shocking news, your blood runs cold and you feel numb. When they told me that, that's exactly what happened. And I looked at that particular person, and which was in scheduling, and said, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. And literally it kept on progressing and progressing and progressing. They kept on trying to draft me for overnights for the graveyard shifts. They kept on going. So then one day, finally, I said, you know what? I'm taking more medication because of it, right? I have to take medication to knock me out and then medication to wake me back up so I could actually do my shift. But there's issues with that, with those two mixes, right?
Okay.
You can't be yourself when you're doing that, right? I presented all of these medical documents to my scheduling staff. They grabbed those scheduling, grabbed the medical documents and said, nah, we're not accepting this. And I go, how could you not accept a medical document? It's like, even has the watermark and everything, right?
Right.
So they're like, no, we can't do this. You might have to rethink about what you want or what you're going to do. So then I started doing my homework. Well, maybe I could go to a unit of assignment where I work only mornings, right? They didn't allow that at all. One day, I called out from shift, which is extremely hard to do, especially for me, because we swear oaths.
Yeah.
You know, we got to go deal with this. We got to go handle this. To call out, that means there's a possibility that maybe someone innocent could get hurt or whatever the case is.
Right.
Just the scenarios run through your head.
Got it.
I call out. I had to call out just to get some rest. Working 2 weeks straight, no days off.
Wow.
16, 18-hour shifts, running on fumes. You can only drink so many Monster drinks.
Yeah, no, totally.
Right?
Wow.
When I called out, went over to grab some more medication from the pharmacist. As I come back, my captain and lieutenant are waiting for me at my porch, and I got relieved of duty because of the medication I was taking.
Wow. Okay. So you got relief from duty. What did they tell you? There's an IA complaint, or what's going on?
No, they literally said we have to figure out what's going on, and there's a lot of issues that are happening right now. That's what they said, and they go, unfortunately, because of your current medical standpoint, you can't come into work until we figure this out. Now, mind you, this happened. I want to say at the end of November into December of 2022.
Okay.
I didn't hear from a doctor or the county until the end of February of the following year.
Okay.
And they said that's when they actually reached out to see if I needed some assistance or whatnot. But along those lines, I went through the notions. I tried to have my job back. I was fighting for everything, and it just wasn't happening. To the point where I was being forced to stay at home from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but I was paying myself to stay at home, which didn't make any sense to me. All of my time and money in the books was just burnt out completely without my knowledge. So I was actually being paid. I was paying myself to stay at home, right?
Yeah.
And that is when I decided, I go, you know what? With all of this going on and all of the communications that I had with sergeants, lieutenants, captains, internal affairs, I go, it's not for me. There's no way. Like I'm fighting tooth and nail here. Like what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I resigned right then and there.
Yeah. You almost felt like you were just up against a wall with no. You couldn't climb it or not.
I was fighting a losing battle.
Yeah. It's very, very unfortunate to know that you almost felt that when they showed up to your house, that was kind of like a way of telling you that, you know.
So one big contributing factor to that, and this to caveat into all of this,
Yes.
is I knew now as of then. Remember, now I'm a changed person as far as knowledge is concerned.
Correct.
Because now I know exactly what internal affairs is supposed to do and how they're supposed to handle particular situations.
Right.
I resigned because I didn't want to work for an agency whose internal affairs unit was treating other deputies like that.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Because I know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So that was one big contributing factor to that.
Would that be a takeaway? I mean, what are lessons learned? You know, that's what this is really all about, right?
So the lessons that I learned in this
Yes.
particular situation is it doesn't matter what posters you see on the freeway or on Instagram or, you know, on billboards saying, you know, hey, you know, you're going to be join us. You're part of this big family, you know, thin blue line. Yeah. Let's go get the bad guys.
That's right.
No, that is not the case. You are your own advocate. When stuff hits the fan, you better be ready to defend yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta educate yourself, and there's training programs. There's training programs like that out there that help people within law enforcement in many different aspects. I'm a big advocate when it comes to not only mental health but training as well. Just because you complete the academy of any capacity,
Yes.
it does not mean that your training stops. In fact, it means that your training now has to be elevated,
Yeah.
and you have to hold yourself to a new higher standard away from whatever else you learn from the academy. You have to seek out that training and knowledge yourself.
No, absolutely. Spot on that. Look, I teach for Savage Training Group, and I'd be the first one to admit also, after meeting Scott Savage, I spent a lot of my time, my last couple of years as a sergeant in LAPD, just thinking to myself, number one, I didn't go to training. Right. One, two, it's just so crucial. But then it goes to your point, because this is such an interesting aspect of all this, because look, if you're mandated to work overtime, and I spent 20 years of my life working 6-7 days a week overtime just to maintain a lifestyle and provide for my family, right, which I do regret. To a certain degree. I mean, but I lived a good comfortable life,
right.
But here's a recipe and a bad formula. Maybe you can agree to this. Look, if you work every single day for 16, 18 hours, like you said, you worked 14 days in a row, where are you supposed to train?
Yeah.
Where do you find time to train? And more important, in terms of your health, where do you find the time to spend it with your family and relax and enjoy the fruits of your family?
Well, see, you're right. There isn't any. And those are the things that's supposed to, I don't care how badass anyone thinks they are and how awesome and like super RoboCop they think they are. Everyone needs an outlet. Everyone needs a refresher. Everyone needs that healing time, right? And that could come in the scope of training, physical training, mental training. It could come from your family, your significant other, your loved ones, your friends, just any time away from the line, from working the line, rather. You need that.
Yeah.
We're not robots, obviously, right? We're not RoboCops yet, but we need those refreshers. And if there's no time for that, everything starts to go downhill from there.
Yeah, no, and we'll talk about that. You're a big time gamer, and I'm gonna get there.
Right.
And get into this world that I'm certainly not familiar with.
Right.
Before we wrap up your tour, if you will, and it's so unfortunate that you, I suppose, for the lack of the better words, you twisted your arm, man, and told you, hey, man, you know what, it's time for you to go, but in certainly in a way that you probably didn't even know. I mean, as you know today, in other words, here we are as you reflect on what happened a year and a half, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It almost feels as though, you know what, Prime, you, at least the way I see it, and I can tell you this from experiences in internal affairs, which it's almost insulting to hear that if you're asking for help and you're witnessing misconduct, alleged that is, you know what, to be able to investigate it. Promise is that the culture kind of takes over, and sometimes we don't want to police our own.
That's correct.
Or discipline our own because of the culture.
That's correct.
We're we have a big ego, and
yes.
This is just how we do things.
That's right.
And that's very, very unfortunate.
Yes, that's correct.
Any parting words in your 4 years there that you can share with us that, I'll leave you the floor with that before we move into the next segment.
I really just want to say to anybody in law enforcement at the moment, especially in California, but right now it's affecting law enforcement and first responders, not just law enforcement, first responders everywhere around the country.
Right.
Just hang in there. There will be a change. If you feel that you want to reach out, if you feel like you need a voice, you want someone to fight by your side, I'll be more than happy to help out in any way, shape, or form that I can. I'm currently going to be, I'm going to be starting my own podcast soon.
That's awesome.
In hopes that I give, or myself and my co-hosts give people a voice.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because that is the one thing that gets taken away when you join law enforcement, is that First Amendment to say something.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech, it's non-existent in law enforcement.
No,
You
absolutely.
cannot say anything.
And in addition to that, this is a bit taboo. Where,
Yes, it is.
And here we have it, internal affairs. I'm sure
Yeah,
when
I
you,
know.
I'm sure when you first met me, or you just like, what internal affairs? That's what's that? There's just no way.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more about having more platforms, and whatever help you need with your podcast, I'm there, because I'm a true believer that there's not enough platforms and settings
Absolutely.
for us to be heard.
No.
Okay, now let's get it's sad enough as it is. I have to go with the best and worst,
Okay.
right? But of course, I switch it up. So let's go with worst. Let's go with the worst that you've experienced, or an event that happened at work or in your career while you were at LASD.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the worst. And this is something that hasn't been heard from anybody else, right? I haven't told anybody else this.
Mhm.
So I'll leave it up to your podcast to share. Okay. So at the highlight, the pinnacle, the crest of all of these particular situations that befell me and others, now I'm not the only one, right? I felt there was no way out. I felt there was no way out at all. Here I am working so hard to get into a particular unit, and I was so happy, obviously, when I graduated, and then feeling that betrayal of like, why am I being treated like this? Why is there these particular people not only bullying me, but bullying others, right? As I'm leaving throughout the day, mind you, I wasn't the only one who was being bullied. There's posters and there's things alongside of the hallway as you exit saying that, if someone is bullying you, please contact internal affairs.
Wow.
And I did.
Yes.
And it hit me hard because I got that phone just slammed shut on me, right? I felt there was no way out whatsoever. And I started to see my own partners fall. I started to see my partners getting divorced, my partners taking their own lives. I started to see just so much suffering, which is not said within the department. Deputies are suffering.
Yeah.
A lot. And I remember I had to qualify that day, like we have to do every month or every other month, whatnot, in the sheriff's department. We had to go qualify for our service pistol, right? At that time, I had the Smith & Wesson M&P 2. Love that gun. Awesome gun. Man, it was like a part of me. I was like on point with that. I love going to qualify. I would go to the range ever so often and have a magazine that had like dummy rounds because, I want to get really good at manipulating and clearing the jams and all that stuff, Went to go qualify simply because if I didn't qualify that day, I was going to get written up, right? Because we were so busy. Yeah. Sometimes we don't have time to qualify, right?
Right.
But I had to go qualify because now it's getting to that point where, something may happen.
That's right.
Go to qualify. I remember getting my range bag, walking over to the mobile range, which is like this giant trailer at Men's Central Jail, and qualified. I got my magazines, made them hot, qualified. And at that time, I was suffering real bad with all these issues. I wasn't even thinking clearly. Put my gun away, took off the magazine, threw it in my bag, started to walk back into the station. Remember, the watch sergeant caught me on the way in and goes, "Hey, Prime, you leave in a couple hours, right?" I go, "Yes, sir." Yeah, guess what? You got drafted. You're going to be working again. When he told me that, I was to the point where I was already dragging my feet. Now I have to work another additional 9 hours dealing with these particular people who just want to, hurt us, inmates, right?
Yes.
I remember telling the sergeant, "Oh, whatever you need, sir. I'll be right back. You know what? I forgot one of my keys inside my car." I walk over, get in my car, and I just started bawling. I started crying because I had no way out. I didn't know what to do. And I know this might be grim. No one knows this, right? because I keep it culture,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I was so upset. I had no way out, no family, nothing. I reached inside my range bag, made my gun hot, took it out of the holster, put it in my mouth, and pulled the trigger in my car. I'm here today because I grabbed the wrong magazine. I had dummy rounds. When I pulled the trigger, it jammed. It chipped my tooth. To this day, I don't know what's more upsetting. The fact that I did that, or the fact that I put the wrong magazine in. I should know better. I should check my mags. You see the mentality you get from law enforcement?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That was quite possibly the worst.
Oh, Prime, first and foremost, thank you for sharing that. I could only say that, you know what, I'm a true believer of faith and true believer of God, and God has plans for you. God has plans and does his best work through people. They're very instrumental. And he was the one that chose the wrong magazine for you to be here to test your strength. Remember, we are as weak as we can be, and we're definitely as strong as we think we are. And sometimes all good things must be tested.
You're right.
And that's,
thank you for that.
That's the testament today of working together. I mean, look at us. We didn't even know each other 2 or 3 months ago.
No, not at all.
And here we are.
That's right.
Talking about a tragic, super devastating event in your life that you have to live with.
Yeah.
But know that there's help.
Yes.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're heading in that direction where you want to be able to help.
Yes.
Not only yourself, but I know there's probably others who are in the same.
There is a lot of others. Unfortunately, they don't have a voice, obviously, right? So I think back, and when I hear these stories of my partners, not only within the Los Angeles County, but all over the United States, all I see is myself struggling as well. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't have anybody, but these people do now, and that's super important. Just a simplistic reach out, can definitely make a difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I thank you so much for sharing that. You definitely caught me off guard, and I appreciate.
Sorry about that.
No, look.
But hey, I want to give you some
absolutely. There's
good
not,
stuff
there's,
here.
There's nothing to be sorry about when you start talking about humanity, taking your own life, having suicidal ideations.
Yeah.
Look, let's keep it real. We are talking about a culture.
Yes.
We are talking about the fact that in law enforcement, this mental wellness is such a it's actually an epidemic.
Yes.
Knowing that not only you, but many times 100 times 1,000 need the help, and I appreciate that. So I'm just gonna get off that soapbox and go to the best. Let's go to the best because you're here.
Yeah.
You have a lovely wife. You got you got you're a gamer.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, tell me about the best. Something that you felt very rewarding, proud of, or a best moment or event in your career.
Yeah. So I do have to say that with every bad particular situation, there's always light, right? Whenever you're into a dark room, it's very clear to see where the light is shining from within that room, right? So whenever I come with these negative particular issues, there's always a positive. And those negative particular issues that I dealt with are actually, I view it now as a positive simply because it builds so much strength. Just like anything else that I dealt with within a department, the level of experiences were amazing. I remember I couldn't wait to go to work. I would just drive down there and just can't wait to, talk to my partners, deal with whatever's going on, volunteer for whatever is happening that day. I loved it. And I know everyone has their own particular situation in if they're working in a facility.
Yes.
I loved it. I loved working at Twin Towers. I mean, the level of characters that you come across there is just, you can't make some of the, it's comical. I remember I would talk to a particular person who was incarcerated there who legitimately thought that he was in his words, he was a king of Italy, because I guess Italy has a king now, right? And he believed it, and he would tell me every time, as I will walk by to see if he's okay, I had to bow to him, because if not, that was very disrespectful. Yeah,
I love it.
And he always wanted his royalty dinner, which was a court line burrito. That's royalty dinner for him. And he will always ask me every day if his horse and carriage is outside, because he needs to go handle his kingdom. Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Any pizza? You guys? I would order some pizza. I mean,
right?
Maybe, something.
Right.
Well, probably not pizza. That's so common.
Yeah.
That's a bad suggestion.
Right.
Some good Italian food.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. Have to walk by him and go, hey.
I know, you have to make that hand gesture too. But yeah, the experiences that I had there were quite possibly the best. Awesome. It's unprecedented. You can't find it anywhere else. It definitely teaches you so much diversity, and it teaches you how to have problem solving skills and the ability to talk to someone completely and utterly foreign from your own mentality. That teaches you a lot.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of teaching, okay, look, before we started pushing the recording button, my man behind the scenes, I just found out that he's a big time gamer. What did he say?
Yeah.
Cognitive ability. God, that sounds so sophisticated. Talk to me. You were a gamer before you came on the job, huh?
I was an online streamer. Yeah,
that's kind of interesting of a career choice, right? So you go from locking yourself in a room for hours. Yeah. You fit right in.
Right.
To talking to inmates.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is
I didn't know you were that sociable.
Right. Well, here's the thing: a lot of people who, and again, here we go again with the training and the education, right?
Right.
When anyone says video games, immediately what comes to that particular person's head or mentality is more than likely their first game they ever played. Or they think of a mind-numbing particular game that just doesn't require really, the least amount of communication or skills, like Pong. Pong is obviously the one of the first games out there. So they say, like, how could you possibly play games all day long? Now, on the flip side of that, the way games are now, you have to be social when you're playing games online, because you're doing things with people you have no idea who's on the other side.
So communication is key. Communication
is key, and it teaches you that.
Fortnite?
Yeah, well, I don't really like Fortnite as much, but that's one of them. Yeah. It teaches you a lot. It also teaches you to have problem-solving skills. You're tasked with a team. You guys have an objective to deal with, and you have an opposite team who also has an objective to do, right? So you collide together. You got to rely on your team. You got to communicate with your team in order to deal with this particular objective. That teaches you problem-solving skills. That teaches you to be social. That teaches you to have the utmost best communication skills. In fact, there's a meme out there, right? Of course, it's a meme, right? It's a wife complaining about her husband who plays games. And she says, hey, you're so good talking to your partners over there where that sniper is and that bomb is over there, but you don't talk to me at all. So where's the communication lie with that, right? But then again, she's right. Obviously it does help out immensely with communication. And you're also able to pick up on particular cues that more than likely you wouldn't be able to pick up if you weren't if you weren't a savant when it comes to playing video games.
So you're not the one that you're playing and you're going, oh gosh, yeah, she's going to cook tonight, and it's just,
No,
I really don't like. She doesn't know this, but I really don't like when she cooks rice or whatever.
No.
Like you start revealing like things about about
you hear that a lot online,
personal life, and I'm going to reveal a little bit about my personal life, because my loved one, and it's not just men like you who do this. My loved one has 2 kids, and man, these kids they're in high school, and man, these kids are going strong till like 2, 3 in the morning, dude. The fans, you have to have certain kind of cooling system.
On the PCs?
Yes, on the PCs.
Yeah, because it could overheat.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
You know what? I'm learning. I'm all about growth, and I got to tell you, man, it's you know what? For trusting you like I do, I'm going to take your word for it. That communication is key, and it's getting better. And listen, Prime, I've had got to know you better. I am really, really fortunate to have crossed paths with you. I
Same
know
here. Thank you.
Instagram, and you were probably watching, Center. Who's this guy talking about internal affairs? And I believe, isn't that you got a hold of me? And
I actually came across your podcast. You were actually recommended to me from another deputy. Wow. They're like, hey, you got to check this out. And the minute I saw your podcast, I was like, oh man, this. First of all, though, I couldn't believe. In all honesty, I'm being honest right now, I couldn't believe that you had anything to do with internal affairs.
Yeah.
In my head, because of my experience and what a slap in the face of reality this is, because of my experience, I always thought internal affairs was just like, oh man, these guys are out to get me no matter what. They're out to get all of the good cops, you know? And that was arrogance and ignorance on my behalf.
Yeah.
It wasn't until we actually met, definitely changed my mindset.
Well, good, man. Hey, you know what? You have a friend forever here.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you coming in with your lovely wife.
Yes, I had to bring her.
I know the 5 freeways.
It's pretty nuts right now.
It can get a little hectic a little bit.
Yeah.
Look, any parting words? Here I am. I'm trying to get into this law enforcement career. Any advice you'd like to give anyone out there?
Yes. Again, please remember, you have to be your own advocate. Internal affairs is not the enemy. Okay? Educate yourself. You're not going to get it in the academy. If you have a question, go seek out the answer. Learn from your particular experiences. Don't let someone else's experience taint what you possibly can have in the future, because you never know that particular person who you're obviously getting information from could possibly just have a bad time. It doesn't mean that particular person is going to have a bad time. Hey, you might even be a deputy or an officer that might turn things around, like the culture aspect, which I strongly believe that obviously both of us and numerous others actually are trying to do at the moment.
That's what we're trying to do, brother. You know what? Spread the good word, and hopefully things will change.
Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, before I forget also, how do people get a hold of you? Where can we find you?
So you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube. Both handles are The Prime Initiative, which would be the name of the podcast as well.
Awesome.
The Prime Initiative. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody there. And if you're listening to this and you are going through something similar, please reach out. Please reach out. I'm not one to speak about something that I have no idea about, because that's not fair for both of us.
Correct.
Right? I am my own brand, right? Just like you are your own brand.
Yes.
Our name means a lot to us.
Yes.
Which is a rarity nowadays, right? So my word means everything. So if you come up to me and you ask me questions, I'm going to give you the hard truth, but I'm also going to give you particular solutions and other places that you can reach out to get the help that you need. Or maybe you don't want help. Maybe you just want to vent and voice things out. Hey, I'm here for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, man. Thanks
Thank
for everything.
you.
I appreciate it. Look, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to push the like button, share, download, do all that good stuff. Big shout out to our sponsors. The Titan Group, a professional investigations for any type of investigations, internal affairs investigations for firefighters and all other sorts of different types of investigations. And of course, you can also on the channel look for Savage Training Group for any type of law enforcement training. And on that note, please be safe out there, and don't forget to go Code 6.